What if the person you trust the most, the one you share your home, your secrets, and your life with, was secretly planning your destruction? Behind closed doors, a seemingly perfect marriage was hiding a nightmare of betrayal, lies, and a shocking attempt at murder. This is the story of Olivia Harper, the wife who played the role of a loving partner by day, and plotted something far darker by night. Stay with us, because as we uncover the hidden messages, the double life, and the courtroom showdown, you'll see how a picture-perfect marriage turned into a chilling crime that no one saw coming. And before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because stories like this, you won't want to miss. On the surface, Olivia Harper and her husband Mark seemed like the perfect couple. They had a comfortable home, a young son, and a life that neighbors envied. Olivia was charming and social, often described as the kind of wife who had it all together. Mark, steady and hard-working, was a man who loved his family deeply. To outsiders, theirs looked like a marriage built on trust, respect, and devotion. But behind the closed doors of their home, things weren't so perfect. Olivia had grown distant, often secretive with her phone and computer. She would disappear for hours, claiming errands or visits with friends. Mark noticed the late-night text messages, the unexplained absences, the strange way she seemed more irritated with him than ever before. What Mark didn't know was that Olivia had been hiding a double life. She had begun an affair, whispering promises to her lover while telling Mark that everything was fine. But even that wasn't the darkest secret she was keeping. Olivia wasn't just planning a new life for herself. She was preparing to erase the one she already had. One evening, in what should have been the safety of his own home, Mark's world turned upside down. Olivia's mask slipped. The woman he trusted, the woman he had married, attacked him in a sudden and violent outburst. Mark fought to survive, and against all odds, he managed to escape the assault alive. Bruised, bleeding, and shaken, he stumbled into the hands of neighbors who called emergency services. From that moment, the truth could no longer stay hidden. Olivia Harper, once seen as the devoted wife, was now exposed as something far more dangerous. And this shocking betrayal was only the beginning of a courtroom battle that would unravel every secret she had worked so hard to conceal. The digital confession. The trial seemed to take a shocking turn when the prosecution introduced a piece of evidence that no one could ignore: Olivia Harper's own digital footprint. For years, her online activity had been private, hidden behind passwords and firewalls, a secret world where she believed her thoughts and plans were safe. But now, every click, every search, every hidden note would speak louder than any witness ever could. The courtroom fell silent as the prosecution called a digital forensics expert. Calm and methodical, he explained how he had carefully recovered data from Olivia's personal laptop. What he revealed would chill everyone to the bone. Her internet searches, once private, painted a horrifying picture of premeditation. The expert began reading the searches aloud. At first, they seemed mundane, almost curious. Life insurance payout rules for spouse. A casual observer might think it was harmless curiosity, but the next search made the room tense. Easiest way to fake a home invasion. Then came the more detailed and sinister queries. How to incapacitate a person quickly and quietly, best place to strike for maximum damage, and finally, how long does it take to die from blunt force trauma? The jury's faces reflected shock and disbelief. Each search revealed not just curiosity, but calculation. Olivia Harper, the woman who had smiled in family photos, the devoted mother and wife everyone admired, had been meticulously planning a violent act. The final, most horrifying search came from the morning of Olivia and Mark's 15th anniversary, hours before the dinner she had prepared. The query was short, clinical, and horrifying: how to clean blood from wood flooring. Gasps echoed through the courtroom gallery. The searches weren't just evidence. They were a chilling blueprint of a crime. It became impossible to argue that the attack had been spontaneous or the result of a mysterious intruder. These were the cold, methodical thoughts of a woman planning to destroy the life she had built, step by step. Olivia herself tried to maintain composure, but it was clear she was cracking. Her face drained of color, her hands trembled on the defense table, and for a moment, the mask of sorrow and innocence she had worn so carefully fell away. Her eyes darted desperately to her attorney, silently begging him to erase what the jury had just seen, but the digital evidence was unstoppable. The juxtaposition was brutal. The happy, smiling Mark in home videos, celebrating anniversaries and birthdays, stood in stark contrast to the calculated, cold searches on a laptop. The jury was no longer looking at a private woman. They were seeing the mind of someone who had plotted a life-altering act of violence against her own husband. It was a turning point. The digital confession had become the prosecution's most powerful witness. Silent, unblinking, undeniable. Each search a step in a carefully choreographed plan, each click a testament to premeditation. Olivia Harper's carefully constructed persona of love and loyalty had been destroyed not by speculation, not by rumor, but by her own digital actions. From that moment, the courtroom understood one truth. Behind the gentle smiles, the social media posts, and the outward appearance of the devoted wife, there had been a calculating predator. And the predator had left a record, waiting to be uncovered, that left no room for doubt. Just when the courtroom had been gripped by the chilling digital evidence, Olivia Harper's defense team made a bold move. With the prosecution's case seeming airtight, her attorney, Daniel Morgan, knew he had to act fast. It was time to shift the narrative and give the jury a reason, just a sliver, to doubt the story they had just heard. Morgan called a surprise witness to the stand, Emma Lawson, a close friend of Olivia's. Nervous but determined, Emma claimed she had been on the phone with Olivia at the exact time the prosecution said the attack occurred. She spoke with confidence, recalling details of their conversation about work, family, and upcoming summer plans. Her testimony suggested a continuous block of time where Olivia could not have carried out the violent act. For the first time since the trial began, a hint of hope flickered across Olivia's face. A small, tentative smile formed. Perhaps, just perhaps, the jury would start to question the timeline. Morgan led Emma carefully, confirming the call's duration, the topics discussed, and the precise times. Each answer seemed to strengthen Olivia's case, offering a compelling alternative narrative. Even the jury seemed to lean in, intrigued by this unexpected development. Could it be possible that Olivia had been framed by her own digital footprint? Could the meticulous searches have been misinterpreted, her intentions misunderstood? For a moment, doubt crept into the room, a dangerous little intruder into an otherwise devastatingly one-sided story. However, the calm, measured response of Prosecutor Victoria Kane reminded everyone why she was considered one of the sharpest minds in the state. She cross-examined Emma methodically, asking her to confirm every detail. The time the call started, when it ended, and the exact topics discussed. Emma remained steady, appearing honest and credible. Olivia's hope seemed justified. Maybe this alibi could tilt the scales in her favor. Then, in a stunning twist that sent shockwaves through the courtroom, Kane revealed new evidence. A court bailiff handed her a folded note, which she read silently before turning to the judge and requesting permission to present it. All eyes were on her as she calmly addressed the witness. Ms. Lawson, you testified that your call with Olivia ended at 10:45 p.m. Is that correct? Yes, Emma replied, steady but slightly anxious. Kane projected a new piece of evidence onto the courtroom screens, a complete call and text log from a burner phone Olivia had used secretly for her affair. The log revealed the truth. The phone call with Emma lasted only 3 minutes, ending at 10:03 p.m. Then, starting at 10:05 p.m., a series of chilling text messages flowed between Olivia and her lover. One message, sent at the exact time the attack occurred, read, "It's almost time. I'll call you when it's done. I love you." The courtroom went silent. Emma's face went pale. The jury stared in disbelief. Olivia's alibi, so carefully constructed, had been destroyed in seconds. Her manipulation had been exposed. She had used her friend as a pawn to create a false timeline, a seemingly airtight defense that now lay in ruins. Olivia Harper's reaction was immediate and intense. Her confident composure crumbled, replaced by fury and disbelief. Her eyes blazed with hatred at the screen, at her friend, at everyone who had just witnessed the unmasking of her deception. The jury saw it all. The mask had not merely cracked, it had shattered completely. In that moment, it became clear that Olivia Harper had not just attempted to manipulate the law, she had manipulated the people around her, exploiting trust to cover her tracks. Her careful plan, designed to mislead and confuse, had failed spectacularly, leaving the jury with no doubt about her cunning and malicious intent. The defense's bold strike had turned into a catastrophic failure. The digital evidence was no longer a shadowy suggestion of guilt, It was an undeniable roadmap of premeditation. And Olivia's own words, captured on her secret phone, had become the final, crushing confirmation. The tide had turned. The chilling precision of her actions, paired with her deliberate deception, left the courtroom in stunned silence. The jury now saw not a flawed but innocent woman. They saw a calculating predator, cold, methodical, and utterly unrepentant. Just when it seemed Olivia Harper's defense might have found a lifeline, the courtroom tension spiked to a new level. The surprise alibi witness, Emma Lawson, had painted a picture of Olivia safely on the phone during the critical window of the alleged attack. For a fleeting moment, hope flickered in the defense corner. Maybe the jury would question the timeline. Maybe they would question the digital evidence. But hope can be fragile, and in this case, it was about to be shattered. Prosecutor Victoria Kane moved with calm precision. She asked Emma to confirm once more that she had spoken with Olivia until 10:45 p.m. Emma nodded, her confidence unwavering. But Kane's eyes betrayed a quiet anticipation, a predator ready to strike. She paused, then revealed the new, unanticipated evidence. The call and text logs from Olivia's secret burner phone, meticulously retrieved and verified. The courtroom gasped as the evidence appeared on the big screens. The logs painted a damning picture. Emma's call with Olivia had lasted only 3 minutes, ending at 10:03 p.m. After that, the messages began. Texts between Olivia and her secret lover revealed her plan in chilling detail. One message, sent at the precise moment the attack was said to occur, read, "It's almost time. I'll call you when it's done. I love you." A collective shiver ran through the jury. Emma's face drained of color. The witness who had seemed so credible moments ago was now facing the undeniable proof that she had been manipulated. Olivia's supposed alibi had been nothing more than an elaborate deception. Olivia's reaction was immediate and raw. The confidence that had briefly returned to her face melted into shock, then fury. Her hands trembled slightly on the defense table, her eyes wide with disbelief as she stared at the screen. The courtroom was silent, every eye fixed on her. This was not just the collapse of a defense strategy. It was the unmasking of a manipulative, calculating mind. The jury had now witnessed a second layer of Olivia's duplicity. First, her digital footprint had revealed chilling premeditation. Now, her carefully orchestrated alibi was shown to be a lie. It was no longer a question of whether she had planned the attack. It was a question of how far she was willing to go to cover her tracks, how she had used those around her as pawns in her game. Even her defense attorney, Daniel Morgan, looked stunned. He had hoped this alibi might shift the tide, create a crack in the prosecution's case. Instead, it had backfired spectacularly. His face reflected a grim realization. The case was slipping further from their grasp, and the jury was watching, seeing the pattern of deceit unfold in real time. As the courtroom absorbed the revelation, a new, heavier layer of the trial settled in. The evidence was not abstract or circumstantial. It was direct, undeniable, and chillingly personal. The jury had now seen Olivia's words, her intentions, and her manipulations laid bare. Every attempt to claim innocence, every strategy to create doubt, was collapsing under the weight of her own actions. By the end of the day, it was clear, the alibi had crumbled completely, leaving Olivia exposed. The defense's attempt to rewrite the timeline had failed, and the jury's perception of her shifted irrevocably. They were no longer deliberating over a possible misunderstanding. They were observing the calculated unraveling of a woman who had tried to mask her predatory intent behind lies, friendships, and false reassurances. The courtroom exited that day with a palpable sense of tension. Every observer knew the trial had reached a new turning point. Olivia Harper's carefully constructed story was now in ruins, and the path forward for the defense seemed narrower and more perilous than ever. The predator, once hidden behind layers of charm and deceit, had been revealed, and the jury could no longer ignore the truth that had been laid bare before them. The courtroom air grew heavier as the doors slowly opened, and all eyes turned toward the center aisle. For weeks, everyone had assumed the worst, that Jonathan Harper, Olivia's husband, had been nothing more than a shadow in the narrative, a man lost to a brutal attack. But today, the unexpected would shatter the trial in the most dramatic way possible. Jonathan Harper walked forward, each step deliberate, his face marked with scars yet radiating strength. The whispers and gasps rippled through the gallery. He was alive. This revelation struck Olivia like a lightning bolt. Her previously confident posture faltered. Her eyes widened in disbelief. She had believed the living witness would never appear, never confront her in court. Yet here he was, a tangible proof of her failed plan, a living accusation that could not be disputed. Jonathan took the stand with steady resolve. His voice, though raspy from the ordeal, carried clarity and precision. He recounted the night of their anniversary, the surprise dinner she had prepared, the happiness that had once filled their home. Then, his words darkened as he described the sudden, unprovoked attack from behind. Pain, fear, and the cold calculation in Olivia's eyes as she struck him. Every word painted a vivid picture of betrayal, of a life nearly extinguished by someone he had trusted completely. The jury watched in silence as Jonathan detailed his slow, agonizing recovery. Weeks in the hospital, surgeries, physical therapy, all while grappling with the emotional trauma of knowing that the person he loved most had tried to end his life. He spoke of the unseen scars as well, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, and the trust shattered so deeply it might never be rebuilt. Then came the most shocking revelation. Jonathan described the discovery of Olivia's hidden compartment in their home, a secret stash of forged identity documents, secret bank accounts, and a burner phone. It revealed her plan not just to attack him, but to disappear entirely. She had intended to vanish as Amelia Finch, collect the life insurance payout, and abandon everyone tied to her current life, including her own child. The courtroom absorbed the gravity of this calculated betrayal. Jonathan's testimony was not only factual, it was profoundly human. He painted Olivia not as a person who had made one terrible choice, but as a predator who had plotted meticulously, whose actions were guided by self-interest and cruelty. Every lie, every manipulation, every digital footprint now had a living witness to confirm it. Olivia sat frozen, her mask of composure shattered. The cold, confident facade she had maintained throughout the trial crumbled as she realized that the living embodiment of her intended victim was here, facing her directly. The jury's perception shifted irreversibly. Sympathy for her as a flawed, conflicted individual evaporated. What remained was undeniable horror at the depth of her deceit and malice. Jonathan concluded with a quiet, dignified strength, a final reminder of the human cost of Olivia's actions. He spoke not with hatred, but with a firm resolve, to rebuild, to heal, and to ensure that justice was served. His presence, his voice, and his story made one thing clear. The trial was no longer about circumstantial evidence or legal maneuvering. It was about confronting the stark, undeniable truth. Olivia Harper had attempted to destroy the life of the man she claimed to love. The impact was instantaneous. The jury had not only heard the crime, they had felt it, seen it, lived it through Jonathan's eyes. The living victim had spoken, and his testimony left a permanent imprint on everyone present. Any lingering doubt about Olivia's guilt had now been obliterated, replaced by a chilling clarity that only the human witness could provide. Just when the courtroom thought it had seen the worst, the prosecution revealed the horrifying extent of Olivia Harper's lies. Jonathan's testimony had exposed her as the attacker, but there was still one more layer of her deceit that would stun everyone present. This was no ordinary crime of passion. It was a carefully orchestrated plan, a web of manipulation designed to rewrite her life while destroying those she claimed to love. Victoria Ramos, the lead prosecutor, turned to the jury with calm authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have already heard about the attack and the digital evidence. But now, the true scale of Ms. Harper's deception will be laid bare." A hush fell over the courtroom as a projection illuminated the screen. It revealed a hidden compartment in Olivia's home, discovered during the investigation. Inside were documents that painted a chilling picture: forged identification cards, a social security number under a false name, a passport with a new identity, Amelia Finch, and bank statements for accounts in a different state, funded with money siphoned from her husband. The jury leaned forward, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and revulsion. It became clear that Olivia's plan was never limited to harming Jonathan. She had intended to vanish completely, abandoning her family, her son, and even her lover, to start a new life with a clean slate. The murder attempt was merely the first step, a seed for her complete reinvention. Victoria detailed the timeline, the burner phone texts, the secret accounts, the research on life insurance and methods to incapacitate her husband. Each piece of evidence showed careful premeditation, not desperation. It was a meticulously crafted life in hiding, planned to the last detail. The jury could now see her not as a human being with flaws and bad decisions, but as a calculating predator, willing to destroy everyone around her for her selfish ambition. Olivia sat at the defense table, her face pale, the carefully maintained veneer of composure slipping. The courtroom felt the weight of the betrayal, not just to her husband but to her child, Leo. The reality sank in. She had considered abandoning her own son as casually as changing her identity. The betrayal was complete, and the jury could sense it. This revelation shifted the focus from the act of violence itself to the character behind it. Olivia Harper was no longer a wife or a mother in the eyes of the court. She was a woman who had meticulously crafted a double life, built on lies, deception, and a chilling disregard for the people she was supposed to love. The audience felt the gravity of this deception, the scale of manipulation that extended beyond a single night, a single act, into months of planning and cold calculation. The room was silent as the implications settled. This wasn't just a story of attempted murder. It was a story of a carefully constructed life of lies, a betrayal of the deepest kind. Every jury member now understood. Olivia's intentions had been monstrous from the start, her actions premeditated and selfish, her morality non-existent. The full scope of her deception was laid bare, leaving no room for doubt, no space for sympathy. By the time the prosecution rested this part of the case, the courtroom had been transformed. Witnesses, lawyers, and spectators alike were confronted with the totality of Olivia Harper's dark and manipulative world. The crime was no longer an isolated incident. It was a window into a mind willing to destroy everything, everyone, and every relationship that stood in her way. The jury had not only seen the attack but had now witnessed the monstrous blueprint behind it, a chilling testament to the depth of human deceit. The tension in the courtroom was almost unbearable. After weeks of testimony, shocking revelations, and emotional impact statements, the jury retreated to deliberate. Every spectator, every family member, and every member of the legal team waited, holding their breath, knowing the fate of Olivia Harper rested in their hands. Less than an hour later, the jurors returned. Their faces were solemn, resolute, carrying the weight of the evidence, the victim's pain, and the overwhelming truth of Olivia's actions. The judge called the court to order, and the foreperson spoke with a firm, unwavering voice. "We find the defendant, Olivia Harper, guilty on all counts: attempted murder, aggravated assault, and multiple counts of fraud." A collective gasp and murmur swept through the gallery. Relief, sorrow, and shock mingled in the room. Jonathan Harper, who had survived the brutal attack that was meant to end his life, sat quietly, his face showing the scars of trauma but also the strength of someone who had endured hell and come back. He watched as justice was served, not out of vengeance, but to protect the innocent and ensure Olivia could never harm anyone again. The courtroom proceedings moved on to sentencing. Victoria Ramos read victim impact statements that were raw and heartfelt. Friends and colleagues of Jonathan spoke of the man they knew, a vibrant, kind, and loving husband, father, and friend, and of how his life had been irreversibly altered by Olivia's calculated attack. But it was Eleanor Harper, Jonathan's mother, who brought the room to silence. Her voice, thick with emotion yet unwavering, recounted the terror her grandson Leo had experienced. A child who had been asleep while his father was attacked, witnessing the aftermath of a crime too cruel for words. She promised Leo safety, justice, and love, a vow to protect him from the darkness that had invaded their home. When Olivia was given the chance to speak, she stood defiantly, ignoring her lawyer's subtle pleas. Instead of remorse, she offered a chilling speech, casting herself as the victim of a vindictive system and a cruel husband. Her words were hollow, a desperate attempt to rewrite reality. The courtroom, however, remained unmoved. The mask she had worn for so long, the loving wife, the sorrowful teacher, was gone forever, revealing the cold, unrepentant monster beneath. The judge, a man known for his fairness and calm demeanor, delivered a sentence that matched the gravity of her crimes. Olivia Harper was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 40 years, ensuring that she would spend the majority of her life behind bars, far removed from the family she sought to destroy. The sentence was both a legal judgment and a moral declaration, a recognition of the cruelty, premeditation, and utter lack of conscience that defined her actions. As Olivia was led out of the courtroom, she gave one final act of defiance, a slow, terrifying smirk, a silent signal of her contempt for the justice system and for the family she had tried to ruin. But to the Harpers, it was nothing more than the last echo of a defeated and exposed predator. The aftermath was a time of healing, not just for Jonathan and Leo, but for everyone who had been affected by Olivia's actions. Jonathan's family rallied around him, mending what had been broken and rebuilding their lives from the ruins of that night. The trial had exposed the darkest depths of human selfishness, but it had also highlighted the enduring strength of love, family, and justice. For the viewers of this story, it was a chilling reminder. Evil can hide behind the most familiar faces, but truth, resilience, and courage can prevail. And as the gavel fell, one thing was certain: justice had been served, and the shadows cast by Olivia Harper would never touch her victims again. If you found this story gripping, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We uncover real stories of deception, crime, and justice. Stories that remind us how complex human nature can be. Don't miss the next one.